I want to tell a story. I suppose technically this is two stories, but they're kind of related in my mind. In fact, in my mind, they are inseparable. Once upon a time, I must have been in kindergarten or first grade. Mom would have the details on that part. I was young, I was in elementary school, and I had been sent to the principal's office. Pretty sure it was during the school day. Did I mention there would be cats? I don't really have the heart to kick them out. Anyway, there I was sitting in this room in the principal's office. I don't know what it was that I had done that put me in this room. Maybe it was like an in-school suspension? And I'm sure it must have been related to some behavior that happened as a result of my, at that time, undiagnosed ADHD. I need you to picture this. Sitting in this room by myself. I'm like, what, 5? There's a table with a single chair that initially I was sitting in. And as I sat in this chair at this table and I looked ahead of me, there was the closed door of this room. I don't remember if the door had a window or not. I made an illustration. So this was my view. On the table in front of me was a blank piece of paper and maybe a couple of crayons. Well, there had to be at least 2 crayons. Maybe that's all there was. I don't remember. And this was my view. And I didn't know what I was supposed to do. And as I sat there in the chair, looking at the wall and the door, I noticed the bricks. These were the huge cinder block bricks, and then they're painted over with the thick paint. My assistant's causing me technical difficulties. I'm studying more than the bricks, the mortar between the bricks. And as I looked at this door and the walls around it, I wondered, the groove here of the mortar between the blocks, does that line up with the groove between the blocks on that side? And I tried with my eyes to follow the groove over here to the corner, around the side, across the back, around the other side, and over to the door. And I kept losing my line as I tried to visually follow it. So I got up. I put my finger in the groove. Perfect size for a child's finger. It fit right in there perfectly. And I tried to follow it, dragging my finger all the way around. But when I got back over to this side, I couldn't tell if the line that I started on over here was the same one or not. I couldn't tell which line I had started on. This is where the ADHD brain gets a young child into trouble. I didn't think about the consequences. Didn't think about right and wrong. Like, it never occurred to me to even question those things. I took my crayon. I put my crayon in the groove and I walked all the way around the room, and I left my crayon in the groove. And I came over. Holy cow, it really is the same, and I really could get there. Now, my brain has additional questions. Clearly, as I follow the mortar, I can leave that original path that I made with my first crayon. But can I get back to it? Again, I didn't think about consequences. I didn't think about right or wrong. I didn't think, would this get me in trouble? It never crossed my mind to question these things. I had more important questions to answer. And so I took my red crayon and I started at the same place, and I went up around a brick, and I went down around a brick, and I continued this up, down, leaving and returning to my blue line. I was fascinated. There's something about the way that those bricks interlocked. I was mesmerized. I don't know how long I spent just playing with these paths between these bricks. I don't even know if my mom can remember why I was in that room that day. What my mom does remember is when the school called her and complained to her that I had defaced their property. I don't even know what they said to her. She tells that part of the story way better than I ever could. And the way I remember her telling this story to everybody else is her responding to whoever it was that had called her from the school and saying, "You think that's bad? You should see what she did at my house." I can remember what was going through my head for this part of the story. Apparently, she proceeded to tell them what I fondly think of as the story of my bouncy horse and a fistful of crayons. I feel like I need a huge expanse of whiteboard behind me, and of course, a Crayola-like diversity of colored dry erase markers. Since I don't have that at my disposal in the right here and the right now, this will have to do. So I sat there bouncing on my bouncy horse. And I was wondering, not that I could have articulated this at that age. Remember, 3, 4, 5, whatever. Mom and dad come and yell at you because you did something that greatly displeased them. They're very upset. And then they ask you, "Why did you do that?" And you look at them and you say, "I don't know." Because in the moment, you can't articulate what it was going through your head. But today I can. And I sat there bouncing on my bouncy horse. And the questions in my mind that I could never have put words to at that point were essentially, what kind of motion do these bounces create? And is it always the same? Or can I change it? And so I was imagining a sagittal plane. Let's see. He had little front feet that went like that, and he had little, how did the little back feet go? Back feet that went like that, and there was that nifty little saddle, and you know, the spring. So this is my bouncy horse. See my little springs. Those are springs. All right. How does my bouncy horse move? That's what I wanted to know. It turned out that my bouncy horse was set up right next to a closet with large, flat, white, sliding doors. What I could not describe, but imagined in my head. I asked myself, does my bouncy horse move straight up and down? Does my bouncy horse move forward and back? Is there a rotational component in the way that my bouncy horse moves? Now this one here is why I needed a fistful of crayons, not just one crayon. And so I gathered in my hot little hands a fistful of crayons. And I climbed on my bouncy horse. In the name of science, I was going to answer this question. And on my bouncy horse, I sidled right up next to that wall. And I pushed my crayons so that they all touched. And I proceeded with the experiment. I was going to find answers. And I sat on my bouncy horse, and I bounced up and down, and I bounced forward and back, and I bounced up and down and forward and back at the same time. And I'm sure that my mom thought that all I was doing was creating a chaotic mess on the closet doors. And really, I was just trying to understand motion. I can totally understand why she was distressed when she came in and found that. And when she tells the story, she talks about how she made me stand there with her and scrub all of those crayon marks off of the closet door. I don't remember that part. But she says that's what we did. So it must have happened. It must be true. But boy, can I remember what it was I was trying to answer. And I got my answer. And I guarantee when she asked me, "Why did you do that?" I looked up at her and said, "I don't know." I don't know. I hope you've enjoyed this story as much as I've enjoyed telling it and reliving it. I think this is one of those stories that we need to keep in the compendium and retelling. What stories do you have?